up there in the orbit somewhere.
Yeah.
Goodness.
But right on through the ceiling, up through the roof. And he had sense enough to go up there and put roofing cement over the hole. And as soon as I noticed it, first thing I said, Ray, come here. And we was all in bed. And I said, come in there. He said, yes, sir. I said, you know anything about that hole there in the ceiling? He said, yes, sir. Then he told me about it. But he was 16 or 17 years old then. Mm-hmm. And we had a light conversation.
A light conversation.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well, my son, if I'd ask him, I say, Junior, did you do that? And he'd say, did you see me?
I did.
If you saw me, I did it. But if you didn't see me, no, I didn't do it.
Ray would always tell me the truth. If he done anything, he'd tell me he done it.
Yeah. But that was one of his things. I said, Junior, did you do that? Did you see me? I said, no, so I didn't do it.
You knew it, done it.
Yeah.
So,
Did
Yeah,
y'all communicate with any of the other aunts and uncles when you was young and like some Uncle Lonnie's bunch or?
well, see, Uncle Lonnie lived in Midland. That was 20 miles away from Sylvania.
Yeah.
That was an all-day run with a mule and wagon. And we'd go over there and visit Uncle Lonnie occasionally. And Edward and Leon, they was about our age. But the thing about it is, the whole bunch stayed drunk all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uncle Lonnie, Leon, and Edward stayed drunk every weekend. And Mom and Daddy didn't mess with it.
Yeah.
And 2 years later, then Daddy started moonshining, bootlegging.
nice.
And,
I'm sorry.
don't
No, sir. Sorry. Go ahead.
well, I want to verify what.
Oh, I said nice. But bootlegging. That's and
know
to
what
me that
bootleg-
that's interesting history to me is bootlegging and
You know what
moonshine.
bootlegging is?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
It's yes, sir. I do.
You could walk into our dining room anytime you wanted to, and there'd be half-a-gallon fruit jars and quart fruit jars full of moonshine sitting on our table.
Nice.
So one Saturday, Mom and Dad went to town, left me and Willard at home. I was running the farm. I was 11 years old, and I was running the farm by myself. Willard and Daddy worked in turpentine to make a living. And dark 30 come on, and we lived down in the swamp. I'm talking about in the swamp. You could hear wildcats squalling and panthers and everything down in there.
They had to move over these main units.
And Willard, we went through it, and back then the kitchen was off from the house, had a breezeway in it.
Mm-hmm.
And Willard said to me, he said, Ernest said, you want let's go in the kitchen and fix some supper? Well, I didn't know how to cook. He didn't either. So I said, well, yeah, we'll go in there and fix something. We had to go through the dining room. He said, how about a drink? I said, yeah, we'll take a drink. And back then, teacups was teacups. They was that big.
Mm-hmm.
And he filled my cup full.
Your cup runneth over, huh?
I mean, tell you. And I sweetened it. That stuff tasted pretty good, you know.
Make you sick.
And I drank it. And we went in the kitchen, and I just remember what we ate, if we ate anything. Come back through, we needed another little sip.
Sip.
We got another cup full. And Daddy had an old bottle of tea. And I looked, and there's a lane about like behind the highway down yonder, from our house to the road. It wasn't a public road, but it was a wagon road.
Another lane, huh?
Yeah. And I had to look down that lane, and I seen them old Model T lights coming, and you race the engine, the lights would come up, and it would die down, and like about like a match.
Mhm.
I said, Lord, what am I going to do? Here I am, drunk as a coot, and here comes Daddy. I went out and lay down on the porch, and the whole house got to spinning. I said, Lord, I don't know how to cope with this mess. Daddy come on in. Willard told him I was drunk. Daddy made me get up, go wash my face, go to bed. Went in there and bed all got to spinning. I knew I'd had it. But that's one time that Daddy didn't whip me.
You felt sorry.
I got whipped enough with that whiskey.
Yeah.
And that and one more time is the only 2 times in my life I'd ever been drunk. Right after I moved him, I had an old coal heater sitting right there. And I needed to build me a flue, so I got out there and was building me a flue. And I went and got me a pint of Seagram gin. I don't know where you know what that is or not.
Sigum 7.
Not Seagram 7,
Yeah.
but
Well, I know
Seagram
it's a
gin.
gin, yeah.
And I got to nipping on that stuff. Well, my neighbor over there, he come over and I had a boat. My neighbor come over and he said, let's go mullet fishing. I said, all right. So we take that old boat, went out yonder on the road and put that boat in, still sipping on that Seagram gin. Went down there and got on it, and I didn't feel no more like I was drinking than I am right now. We got out on a sandbar down there and didn't look like we were going to catch any mullet. And we started back. And then when all things broke loose,
Well, I know that water.
I seen some mullet junk run, you know, and I got the net and I reared back like this to throw it. Net fell in the boat and I went out. And I was trying to gain my composure, stand up before I could swim to the boat. I could not come up to save my life. I got to thinking now, you know, I'm in a mess out here. Can't swim and water about to drown. And my brother-in-law, he was with he paddled the boat upside of me and caught me under the arm like that. Well, I stood up and I wasn't in the water waist deep.
Yeah.
And then the neighbor over there, he got mad because I couldn't throw the cast down. I'll throw it myself. By this time, I was sick. I mean, sure enough sick. I got up ready to bow, put my hand down like that and prayed. And I don't think the Lord ever heard that. But he went to throw that cast net, and he like to fell out. And he caught the sides of the boat like this and sunk the boat.
Yeah.
Oh my
And
goodness.
I got out on a mud flat while they turned the boat up, got the water out of it. Then when we got to back to where the truck was parked, my brother-in-law, he went to get the truck, and he sat there. The truck was on a slant on the side of the road, and he sat there and let the gas run out, or picking up gas. Then they went and got some gas. And I said, they leaving me here by myself. Somebody come along here and run over me. Won't even know it.
Yeah.
And finally we got the truck back, left the boat tied up out there, I reckon. And we come home. And you talking about a sick nigger? Oh, Lord. Went next morning, I could scratch my head like this.
Yeah, way out there.
And I told the Lord, I said, if you would let me over this mess, you won't catch me in this mess again.
Did your mom ever tell you any stories about when she was growing up there? Dad told me one time that back, him and her went out somewhere, maybe to a dance or something or other back in their younger days. And they was coming home down through one of them lanes up there and you know, out there by the house, and there was a wild hog or something come running out of the bushes and was growling and carrying and running alongside the car. And they had stopped at somebody's house, you know, and talk to them a little while, and kind of run in away from it. And they'd got back into whatever kind of old car it was, and left there. It wasn't but maybe a mile on over there to the old home place, and so that old hog was running down through there, just a grunting and carrying on behind them. And I think she said that they had a little fence or something around the yard, or Daddy did, and they pulled the old car up in the yard, and both of them got out real fast, like and run there, and the old hog run into the fence, trying to get them. But then they kind of scared him on off, and he went on down, and we talking, you know, way back yonder when they were, it could have been between, you know, his first wife and the second one, you know, sometime up in that area.
Mom was telling me one time about her and Daddy. You know, Uncle Buddy on Daddy's side was blind. He was blind. He could see well enough to walk, but that's of course it was. And they had gone somewhere, and they had to walk back through the woods, and a panther got after them. And Daddy had a file in his pocket, and he had to put Mama on his back to walk a foot log across the stream. And Mama said that file gouged her stomach, and they finally got across there. Then Daddy had to go back and get Uncle Buddy because he was blind. He couldn't walk that foot log. And said that panther was just hollering. And when they got home, said that they could hear that panther outside the house, around the house, hollering.
Wow.
And,
It followed you home.
Well, they told a story one time of when I was just the smallest one, that they was living out there in that old home place. And some guy had come by, they called his name, that raised chickens or something other, and he was in a horse and buggy, and they was going to go to church, but they didn't want to go because they, you know, it was pretty good ways over there, but he talked them into riding in the buggy to him, with the church with him. And then after church was over with, he decided he didn't want to go back that way, so they had to walk. You know, he said he'd been tired of shoveling chicken manure all day, and he had to go home. And they said that they was walking down one of them old dark paths and heard a panther or something out there swallowing. They got to running, and they was passing me back and forth from Ruby to Margaret to whoever was big enough to run and tote me, you know, back down through there.
yeah.
Scared to death.
Well, back then, you know, our closest neighbor was probably about 5 miles. Our neighbors was not like it is here. They was few and far between. And me and George, I don't know whether you remember George Potter or not.
No, I don't.
Well, he was just a little older than me. And he'd get after me to go spend weekend with him. Well, I was a homeboy. I left to stay at home. He told me, said, you go. And our school that we went to was about 5 miles from where we lived. And I walked to school morning and night, morning and evening.
I was looking at her, you know, to see if she's asleep.
Oh no, I'm listening.
And he told me, said, if you go spend Friday and Saturday night with me, I will come back Sunday night with you, and then I'll go to school with you Monday, then I'll catch a bus home Monday evening. So I said, all right. So Sunday afternoon, he was supposed to go back home with me. And we lived about 5 miles apart, maybe a little further. And no, he wasn't going to do that. So I started walking. And Grandma made him hook up to horse wagon. And we argued the whole time. Got home, and Daddy told him, he said, go out there and take your mules out and put them in the lot. If you're not going go home. I mean, unless you're gonna spend the night. He got scared and he spent the night. So this Monday morning he drove the mule back home. But all in all, I wouldn't give anything for my youth life. I enjoyed it.
Oh, good.
And our swimming hole was at least 10 miles from where we lived. And we'd walk every Sunday. That's the only bath we had.
Mm-hmm.
If we figured we needed it. If we didn't need it, we wouldn't go. I'm kidding.
I was going to say, oh my. Goodness.
But in the wintertime, I was telling Scoot the other day about it the other night. We'd draw tubs of water, number 3 wash tub,
Mm-hmm.
and put it out behind the well curb where if somebody happened to come by, they wouldn't see us.
Yeah.
And it seemed like that wind would spring up, and it was ice cold.
Ooh.
And we'd get in that tub of water, and we'd wash high as possible, then wash low as possible, then we'd wash possible.
Oh, goodness. Goodness.
But we had a pretty good life. Tootsie, George called him. He came down to the house one Sunday and got me and Willard. And he had bought a 34 Ford, just had the engine rebuilt on it. And like we was talking the other day, back then if you put 3,500 miles on a car, it would wore out. I mean 35,000. It would wore out. So he come down there, and that thing had a speedometer on the dash that big around. And I was barefooted, Willard was barefooted. And we thought he was going to the creek to go swimming. No, he turned around and went the opposite way. We asked him, said, where you going? He said, I'm going to North Carolina to get married. Hey, wait a minute, we barefooted. He said, that's all right. His girl lived down there, and he loved the dirt that she walked on, and she didn't care nothing about him. So, before we got to this curve, it was a curve to the left. I looked out across the field there, and when I looked back at the speedometer, he still had that thing in second gear at 60 miles an hour.
Ooh.
He went around that curve, and that car skidded off the road, and the front wheel hit a culvert, the end of a culvert. And that thing got airborne. And we picked glass out of a wild cherry tree higher than my head. And it rolled. I crawled out of it. The car was laying on its side. And his girl and them, from where they live, they saw it. They come running down there. And he never did marry. He didn't get to North Carolina.
He never married anyone?
he finally married.
Yeah,
He married.
she's dead
Oh.
now.
Oh, no, it didn't kill him.
Shush, Mama. I thought that was, he got killed in the wreck. Okay.
Oh, no. None of us got hurt.
And that's amazing.
We all crawled out of that car.
Sandbed Road, best place.
None of us
Guess
got hurt.
so.
Didn't have no seatbelts either.
No.
But
You got your mama here, you ain't supposed to get no call.
Oh, no. I thought I felt my phone ringing, but it wasn't. It was just, I have no service.
Well, you know, we went to Florida in 1939. We stayed down there for 6 or 8 months.
Yeah.
At Pompano Beach. We lived in a tent out there.
That's it.
Oh, my goodness.
I believe that.
Pick blueberries, and we'd sell them blueberries and buy groceries and whatever. Daddy tried to get a job. You couldn't buy a job.
No.
So Daddy had an old Model A Ford. He built a tin body on it. All of our furniture in there, And us youngins in there at night trying to sleep. And that was awful. And that old Model A, it taken us about 2.5 days to drive from Sylvania to Florida.
Well, that's the way Mom and Dad was in that old Model T. They'd bust off down through there, and when it got dark, they'd find a place close to a river or something, you know, where they could maybe fish or something, and build a fire and spend the night. Because there wasn't no Burger Kings or McDonald's or 7-Elevens along the way.
No, sir. The last time I went down there and saw Uncle Ben, I had a 38 Buick, and I had just rebuilt the engine on it. And you talking about a ride 35 miles an hour? That was a ride.
It's a long ride.
And it didn't have no shocks on the front when we wore out, and that front end was bouncing. We rocked all the way down to Pompano Beach and back.
Bet you that was a long ride. 35 miles an hour.
But see, back then when you rebuilt the engine,
Mm-hmm.
that's the speed they suggested you run.
Yeah.
But I run a little bit faster now.
Just a little bit.
Well, did any of your family talk about your grandmother or grandfather and great-grandparents and...
Been on the Williams side?
Yeah.
No.
Did you ever hear any stories of how Uncle Lonnie wound up with all the land over there?
No.
Never heard nothing about that either. I
No.
never did either.
Mom and Daddy, back then, families didn't visit.
They still don't visit.
They just didn't visit. And
Down there, up there in Sylvania there.
I guess Mom and Daddy would probably go see Uncle Lonnie maybe once a year.
Mm-hmm.
And even on Daddy's side, they didn't visit. And you could visit one of them, go drive up to the house in a mule wagon. Do you think they'd ask you in? No, sir. They would not. Hello. Hey. All right, you. Dwayne. Hold just a minute.
Hey, Dwayne. How
Oh.
you doing?
They would not ask you in,
Yeah, doing all right. We,
and you think you go get dinner?
celebrated dinner.
No, you wouldn't go get no dinner. They wouldn't ask you to eat dinner if you're starving to death.
Well, that's rude.
If you come to our house, you're going to eat.
You're going to eat, yeah. We're going to tell you to come in. You're going to eat.
There's
But
the spare room.
that was the
Got a
way they
bed
done
right
back
here.
then.
Yeah.
They would not ask you in and eat dinner at all. And it was just one of those things that we thought that's the way people were supposed to live.
Well, what year did you marry and move away from home?
Well, in 1945.
1945.
May the 4th in 1944, I went to Fort McPherson in Atlanta to be examined for the Army. And like I said, back then they was taking everything from 8 to 80, blind, crippling, crazy. And they turned me down.
Oh, yeah.
There was six of us out of 165 that got turned down.
Mm.
And I tried my best to leave that place as quick as I could. The colonel, or whatever his name was, he told us all, he said, now if y'all will stay and have dinner with us, we'll give you a meal ticket home. I didn't want no meal ticket. I went to him and I told him, walked in there and I told him my highball. I said, sir, if you'll give me a pass out of this place and let me go, I'll buy my own meal.
Yeah.
He said, well, he said, You welcome to go anytime you want to. He said, I'll give you a pass. I walked out that army base up there and sat down there till all the rest of it ate dinner and come out, and they caught the same bus I did.
Oh, goodness.
You could have had dinner.
You could have had a meal.
We all caught the same bus back to the Greyhound terminal in Atlanta. But there's a fellow here by the name of, I can't think of his name now, but he's a mechanic, automobile mechanic, Jimmy Fox. And he went with us and drunk and cooked. The bus driver had trouble with it, and everybody on the bus had trouble with it. Gone in the back there, nobody liked it because they knew they was going to be examined for drugs. Guy in the back there told him, Jimmy, don't come back here messing with me anymore. I'm gonna have to stop you. Reckon here comes Jimmy staggering back there. I heard a whop. I looked down and here comes Jimmy sliding back. That fellow done salivated him. So somewhere up the road there, the bus driver pulled into the police station. Said, all right, this as far as you go, get out. And old Jimmy begged that bus driver, if you'll just let me stay on this bus, I will behave myself. And the bus driver take pity on him and let him. We got to Atlanta, and we thought it was crowded, but we got on that army bus. We wasn't crowded till we got on that. I mean, they packed it in like sardines. We got to the army base. They started processing right then. It was 11 o'clock at night.
Mm-hmm.
And they called Jimmy's name. Said, when they want to call your name, sound off. Well, they called Jimmy's name, and he didn't say that. They called it again, and he hollered. Well, the lieutenant down the hallway heard it. He came in there and he said, I don't know who that smart aleck was, but I'm going to tell you right now. You do that once again, you ain't going back home. We're going to ship you right on into to the army. And old Jimmy decided he better behave himself.
Did you ever go to service?
No.
So, yeah.
I was too young, and then I was too old.
And there's two of them.
Yeah.
I went Tuesday, whenever he went, he come down to the house and asked me about joining the National Guard. Well, I'd have to walk 5 miles to join it, and then with drill, I'd have to walk 5 miles there and 5 miles back home. Of course, back then, walking 5 miles wasn't nothing.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'll think about it. And about 5 or 6 weeks after that, they mobilized the whole unit and shipped it right on overseas.
Mm.
They were some of the boys that in that unit that didn't know A from bullfoot.
Oh, my goodness.
And had one of them guarding a live ammunition gun overseas. And the officer today come by. And he threw that rifle on him, and he had live ammunition in the rifle. Said, halt, who goes there? Well, the officer today was waiting for the boy to say advance to be recognized. And he stood there and he said, well, he said, what are you supposed to say now? He said, I don't know, but you better stand up, I'll think of it. Sweetheart, you ain't taping all this, are you?
No, sir, not at all.
That don't sound like you're telling the truth there.
Yeah, no, sir.
All right, was her lips moving?
Ma'am?
Was her lips moving?
Don't have to move.
Her lips were moving. She ain't telling you the truth.
That's not nice.
Oh.
That's not
And
nice.
Tootsie, they marched him up a hill right into a German machine gun nest.
Oh,
He got
goodness.